Jacob was used to commanding rooms, making million-dollar deals, and living in a world of luxury. But today, dressed as a simple mailman, he was about to enter an entirely different reality, the modest home of his fiancée's family. His heart pounded, not with the usual confidence he exuded in boardrooms, but with trepidation. For once, money, status, and power meant nothing. Today, all that mattered was how they would see him. He expected awkwardness, maybe a few judgmental glances, but what awaited him at that doorstep was something far beyond his wildest imaginings. Title: A millionaire disguised himself as a mailman and went to meet his fiancée's parents. When he arrived at the house, he was Jacob Warner, a self-made millionaire, was used to luxury, wealth, and success. His rise to fortune had been nothing short of meteoric. He built his empire from the ground up, turning a small tech startup into a global conglomerate. At 32, his world revolved around board meetings, private jets, and lavish parties. Despite his outward success, there was something Jacob craved more than any of his accomplishments: genuine love. That's when he met Lily Monroe, a bright, charming, and down-to-earth woman who was completely unimpressed by wealth and status. She worked as a teacher at an inner-city school, passionately shaping the lives of children who needed a voice. Jacob had fallen for her hard and fast, attracted not only to her beauty but to her kindness and grounded nature. She didn't care about his fortune, she loved him for who he was beneath all the money. After a whirlwind romance, Jacob proposed to Lily, and she joyfully accepted. However, there was one looming challenge he had yet to face: meeting her family. The Monroes lived a simple life in a small, blue-collar town. They had no idea their daughter was engaged to a millionaire. Lily had kept his wealth a secret because she wanted them to love him for the person he was, not for his money. Jacob understood her reasoning, but he also wanted to see what her family was like, without the filter of his wealth. He devised a plan: he would disguise himself as a mailman delivering packages and meet her family anonymously before revealing his true identity. He thought it was a brilliant idea. How hard could it be? Little did he know, this plan would lead him into a whirlwind of secrets, conflict, and danger that would change his life forever. Jacob's hands gripped the steering wheel as he drove his modest delivery truck into the quiet suburban neighborhood where Lily's family lived. His heart raced with anticipation. He had rented the truck and donned the standard blue uniform of a mail carrier, complete with a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. A pair of glasses, clear and unfashionable, sat on his nose, further masking his identity. The Monroe family house was small and tidy, with an old wooden porch, a garden of wildflowers, and peeling paint on the shutters. It was a far cry from the luxury penthouse Jacob called home, but there was a warmth in its simplicity. As he pulled up to the driveway, he rehearsed his lines, practicing his best mailman voice. He stepped out of the truck and approached the front door, holding a package in his hands. As he rang the doorbell, his pulse quickened. Lily had told him her parents were kind but protective. He hoped his disguise would hold long enough to get a glimpse into their world. The door creaked open, and he was met by a middle-aged woman with soft eyes and graying hair. She smiled warmly, though her gaze lingered on him with a hint of suspicion. "Good afternoon, ma'am," Jacob said, lowering his voice slightly. "I've got a package for Mr. Monroe." "Thank you," she said, taking the box. "Are you new around here? I haven't seen you before." Jacob fumbled with his words but managed to smile. Yes, ma'am. Just started last week. Her expression softened, and she invited him inside. Well, come on in. It's hot out there. You can grab a glass of water before you head out. Jacob hesitated but stepped inside, grateful for the opportunity to observe the Monroe household up close. The living room was cozy, filled with family photos, well-worn furniture, and the faint smell of freshly baked bread. It felt like the opposite of his sleek, modern lifestyle, but there was something comforting about it. Just as Jacob began to relax, a man stormed into the room. This had to be Mr. Monroe, tall, burly, with calloused hands and a permanent scowl etched on his face. He looked at Jacob with distrust, and Jacob immediately felt the weight of his presence. "Who's this?" Mr. Monroe demanded, his voice gruff and wary. "A new mailman, dear," Mrs. Monroe said, glancing between them. Mr. Monroe narrowed his eyes. "You're not from around here, are you?" Jacob stammered, feeling suddenly exposed. "And no, sir. Just started the route." The tension in the room was palpable, and Jacob's heart pounded in his chest. He hadn't expected Lily's father to be so hostile. Before he could think of an excuse to leave, the door burst open, and in walked Lily, who froze the moment she saw him. Lily's eyes widened in shock as she saw Jacob standing in her parents' living room dressed as a mailman. Her face drained of color, and for a moment, she seemed unsure whether to laugh or cry. Jacob could see the panic flashing in her eyes, and his own heart sank. "What are you doing here?" Lily whispered sharply, her voice a mixture of disbelief and anxiety. Jacob opened his mouth to respond, but Mrs. Monroe, sensing the odd tension, intervened. "Lily, do you know this man?" Lily hesitated, clearly torn between revealing the truth or maintaining the charade. Jacob watched her wrestle with the decision, and for a moment, he realized just how much he had underestimated the complexity of the situation. Yes, actually," Lily said, her voice trembling slightly. He's from the school. One of the teachers. We, work together." Jacob's heart dropped. He could see the pain in her eyes as she lied to her parents, and he realized the depth of the deception he had dragged her into. Mr. Monroe's eyes narrowed further, and Jacob could feel the distrust radiating from him. "School, huh?" Mr. Monroe said, his tone skeptical. "I don't like it when people come into my home and start acting suspicious." The room was thick with tension. Jacob knew he couldn't keep up the act for much longer. He wanted to come clean, to tell the truth and explain everything, but the fear of losing Lily's family's respect weighed heavily on him. Before anyone could say another word, the front door swung open again, and a young man entered, wearing a leather jacket and a smug grin. He looked at Jacob with immediate disdain. Well. "Who's this clown?" the young man sneered, leaning against the doorframe. Lily's face paled even more. "Danny, this isn't a good time." Before Jacob could say anything, Danny stepped closer, his eyes cold and calculating. "You look familiar," he said, his voice laced with suspicion. "Where have I seen you before?" Jacob's mind raced. Had Danny recognized him? Had he seen him in the news or on the cover of some business magazine? The tension was unbearable. Just as Jacob was about to speak, the unthinkable happened. Suddenly, Mr. Monroe's phone rang. He glanced at the screen, his face darkening as he answered. His voice grew low and angry as he spoke in hushed tones. Jacob couldn't make out what was being said, but when Mr. Monroe hung up, the storm in his eyes was unmistakable. "Lily," he said in a dangerously calm voice, "can you explain why your fiancé is a millionaire posing as a mailman in my living room?" The room went dead silent. Jacob's heart stopped. How had Mr. Monroe found out? Was it possible that someone had recognized him after all? His mind whirled, trying to figure out how the situation had spiraled so quickly out of control. Lily's face turned ashen as she stammered for words. "Dad, But Mr. Monroe wasn't interested in explanations. "Did you think I wouldn't find out? I just got a call from an old friend in the city. He said he saw your picture in some magazine. Your fiancé isn't some teacher, is he?" The room was filled with an unbearable silence as Jacob stood there, feeling the weight of his mistakes. He had come here to prove himself, to be judged for his character, but in trying to control the narrative, he had only made things worse. Lily stepped forward, her voice shaking with emotion. "Dad, please. Jacob made a mistake, but he's a good man. I love him." Mr. Monroe looked at his daughter with a pained expression. "I just want what's best for you, Lily. I don't care about his money. I care about trust and honesty." Jacob swallowed hard. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "I should have been honest from the start. I didn't mean to disrespect your family. I just wanted a chance to be seen as more than my wealth." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, Mrs. Monroe, who had been quietly watching the whole scene, stepped forward. "Trust is earned, Jacob," she said gently. "But it's also something that can be rebuilt. If you truly love Lily, you'll find a way to make this right." Jacob nodded, his chest tight with emotion. He knew he had a long road ahead to earn back their trust, but he was willing to do whatever it took. For the first time in his life, Jacob realized that love, and trust, were worth more than any fortune. And with that realization, he knew this was just the beginning of a new chapter, one where money couldn't solve every problem, but where love could help build a stronger foundation. In the weeks that followed, Jacob worked hard to make amends. He spent time getting to know the Monroes, not as a millionaire, but as a man. Slowly, they began to see the person beneath the wealth, and trust was rebuilt, bit by bit. It wasn't easy, and there were moments of doubt and tension, but through it all, Jacob and Lily's love remained steadfast. They learned that while money could buy many things, it couldn't buy the most important things: trust, respect, and love. Those had to be earned, and Jacob was willing to earn them every day for the rest of his life. And so, the millionaire who had once disguised himself as a mailman found something far more valuable than fortune: he found a family. The end.